I warmly welcome you to my Zaltech channel. In this video tutorial, we are learning about Flutter. In this particular video, we are going to learn what is stateless, stateful, and what is state. This is the main classes which is required to develop a Flutter application. But to get started with Flutter application or Flutter framework, you must have a knowledge of stateless, stateful widgets so that we can develop appropriate layouts inside our application. Let's get started with stateless application. Friends, stateless widgets are useful when the part of the user interface you are describing does not depend on any other than the configuration information in the object itself. This means, suppose you are building some UI in which you do not have to change the texts or another logo or that kind of stuff, then you can do with stateless widget. There is no change is allowed in that state of that UI. And the build context in which the widget is inflated for compositions that can change dynamically. Only you can build context can change dynamically by using this stateful widget. To use a stateless widget, you have to pass some stateful widgets constructor or build context to this stateless widget as a child. Due to having an internal clock driven state or depending on some system rate, consider using stateful widgets. Friends, if you are using PCs which have some less memories or this kind of stuff and you want to use some better applications, then please try to use this stateful application when internal clock driven state are dependent on some system rate. So stateful widget is very important, and stateful widgets are also useful when, suppose that your widgets are useful when your interface are described can change dynamically, means you are changing the text inside your UI or you are adding some values and that kind of stuff. Then stateful widget is important because stateful widget have one more method value class state which can add logic to the state level. Means after adding some data, if some action will be performed, then because of this state method or state get state method, you can just change the text or some kind of UI based, like suppose you are mentioning some text hello world, and if you want to do some action like when the user click on the icon of button, the state will be changed, means hello world will be replaced by beautiful hello world and that kind of stuff. At that time, friends, stateful widgets is very important when you want to change the state of your UI. So you might be know that the stateless widgets can't be changed and stateful widget must change because of this state class object. Let's get started with our basic application, and I'm going to show you how that application works. Now let's start a new Flutter project. In new Flutter project, I'm going to show you how it's work. Flutter working, press next and finish. It's going to create a Flutter project. So friends, you can see here our main.dat file is ready to be built. Let's just connect my device over here. It's going to start my emulator so I can run this code on emulator. As you can see, my emulator is started. Let's allow me to increase size of my emulator. Now it's better looking now. Let's give the basic knowledge of this, how it's going to be work. As you can see here, initially, as if you don't know how this work, what is this language, Dart language, how to learn Dart language, then I previously developed a full crash course in which I mentioned all the things which is required for Flutter. If you want to start with Flutter, then you must know the Dart programming language, and I just mentioned all the things which are required for Dart Flutter in my previous crash course video. Let's get started with this. Friends, in a Flutter, there is one method called runApp, in which we have to pass our widgets. It may be stateless or it can be stateful widget. We can pass any of them inside this runApp method. In this tutorial which provided by the Flutter, in that tutorial they provided one application in which, let's allow me to run this program first of all so that you can get some better knowledge of it. It's taking more time in resolving dependencies, and I must want to show you how you can store your dependencies Here you can see in your Flutter project, we have one file here, a pubspec.yam. All your dependencies are stored over here. As you can see here we have our Flutter dependency in which we are mentioned our SDK. This is a Cupertino icons which is provided as like by iOS devices, and this is the material design use permission, and you can add some more packages and upgrade it. Here you can, if your Flutter is not working properly, then you can just go with Flutter Doctor, which is going to fix your problems. Let's start with our programming over here. You can see here, this is the basic tutorial which is provided by Flutter developer Google, and you can see this is the app bar which is known as app bar. This is our body, and this is a floating icon button, and you can see some text is visible over here. You have pushed the button this many times, and this is a 0. Friends, which app bar you are seeing here, it's a StatelessWidget. We can't change it, but this is the part which is in body part, which is developed by, you can see here, this is the StatefulWidget. We can change this state by just this floating button. As you can see, when I press this button, this count will be increased. Let's see how it's working. Let's first of all start with this my app, which is provided by run app method. This is a StatelessWidget, so that you can't change this format, but if you want to change this format, you have to use StatefulWidget. Because of that, they used this material app, which is a class of Flutter, in which you can mention 3 things: title, theme, home. You also can mention some other things like roots or that kind of stuff. We are going to see about this constructor and all about it in next video tutorials. Let's just go with the flow. Here we mentioned a title, we provided a theme. You can see here color theme.blue, and that will be provided over here. If you change over here blue to green, then this is converted to green. And let's allow me to do that so that you can also understand what is hot run method. Now you can see I just change it from blue to green, and whenever I'm going to choose this hot method, you can see immediately it will change. This is the main idea about Flutter. Flutter provide a hot reload. Because of that, you can change something over in your code and it will affect directly emulator immediately. You do not have to wait to compile, which is already compiled. And you can see the count 7 is already there. That means I do not rebuild this application. Now friends, you can see here in material app we have to provide one home, where our data will be present over here. This is the home known as our screen, and in home we provided one class my home page, which builded by programmer, and it's extend the StatefulWidget. That means we can change the state of this widget, and here you can see that my home page title will be provided, and this is the constructor. I also tell you how to use this constructor and how to redirect the constructor in the Dart crash course, in which you can see that here they redirected the constructor for my home page to the super class of StatefulWidget using this super keyword. After that, they use this title to save using this final string title. After that, in this my home page, they created the instance of the underscore my home page state. As I said earlier, you can see here, if you want to work with StatelessWidget, you have to add the state object to build a logic to the state level. As you can see here, in this my home page StatefulWidget, we required one state class object. That's why, as you can see here, this is a state class object which we created over here inside this StatefulWidget. And let's give some basic knowledge how it's working. When you assign your StatefulWidget a state, this state will be returned to this home. So as you can see here, we are returning this build. As you can see here, this widget, which is overridden method of the state object, which is returned here a home. Let's give basic knowledge of state, how it's working. As you can see in a build, we provided one scaffold. This is one more constructor which we are going to see in future videos. Let's just give the basic knowledge how it's working. As you can see, in a scaffold we are mentioning one app bar, which is over here. This is the app bar which is provided by scaffold, and inside it we are mentioning one text constructor. As you can see, this is the widget.title which is provided over here. As you can see, this is passed to super constructor, and super constructor always have one method which is named as widget. As you going to see over here, the Flutter framework has been optimized to make running build method faster, so that anything that needs understanding rather than having to individual changes instance of widget. And you can see this method is rerun every time set state is called. That means this is the main priority of StatefulWidget, that in a state method, whenever you call this set state function, it is going to restart building of this method. That means whenever you choose this button, after it, as you can see here, in a body, inside the center tag, you can see this is in center, and in child as a column, as you can see, this two thing is in column, first line and after the second line. First line, as you can see that you have a push to button this many times, and the second line we have another text which is $_count 8. And as you can see, we mention a floating action button inside this scaffold, and at the press of this button we called one method _increment count. As you can see where this method is called. Before incrementing count, it is creating set state again. Because of that, this value will be increased by 1 as mentioned over here, and this set state method is going to rebuild the application from this scaffold, so that because of that part this count will be increased. As you can see, this count will be increasing. So this is the brief information which is required. This scaffold, app bars, text, column, layouts, widgets. If you don't know anything about this floating action button, then it's very simple. I am going to explain this whole details in our next video tutorials. If you don't know how it's working, just basic flow is required. How we are going to use these stateful widgets, how we are going to use this stateless widget. You do not require some great knowledge to start with my tutorials, because I am going to starting with very scratch. We are going to learn each and every constructor, like this material app, this theme data, which kind of states we have, and we are going to also learn about scaffolds, app bars, many types of these app bars, text.reach, this kind of constructor. We all are going to see in next video tutorials video. Just if you want to see this video, then please subscribe my channel over here. And if you like this explanation about this code which is provided built in by the Flutter, then please give like to my video. And thanks friends, thank you for watching this video.